get started. Welcome to Pilates. Hit mute. So welcome. If you are new to Pilates, have no fear. It's not as peaceful as it sounds. No, I'm just kidding. So in terms of Pilates, play your own music. I won't be playing music from here. I want you to play whatever you like that creates the mood that you want. Or you don't have to have music at all. Have water nearby if you want to take breaks at any time. And then I'm going to be giving modifications and variations of every exercise. If you're already familiar with any sort of like neck or back issues and you know how to modify it, by all means do the modifications you're most accustomed to. We're going to start with our breathing. Okay. So if you start in the front half of your mats, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. So I'm kind of doing an exaggerated breathing, but you want to breathe in through the nose and forcefully exhale out through the mouth so that you engage your abdominals. Good. Nice, slow, deep breath. Think about your alignment as you inhale, like a string is pulling up to the top of your head. And then on the exhale, draw the abs in like you're going to create a C curve, like you're doing a vertical crunch. Good. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, around the back. Predominantly, our focus is going to be on our core musculature, which is not just our abs, but anything that attaches to the spine and pelvis. But it is going to feel like we're doing a lot of abs and Pilates. But one thing I really try to also always include are our inner and outer thigh muscles and our glutes. So we want that pelvis stability. Let's go ahead and roll down onto our mats. So you want to keep your head and neck aligned with your spine. So the only time you're going to be looking at the ceiling is when you're on your mats. When we do our crunches up, it might be nice to have the device kind of near your foot. But anyways, you want to put it in a place that doesn't challenge your or strain your neck. Inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. So finding that slow, steady state of breathing, nice and deep. On your exhale, feel your abdominals sink down towards the spine. Engage those abs. Take that lower back down to the mat for an imprint. So we want to practice breathing while keeping the abs engaged. Sometimes you feel like it's restricting your inhale when your abdominals are engaged as you breathe. But you will get a little more accustomed to sort of that deep breathing, inhale and exhale, while keeping the abdominals engaged. Let's lift our legs to tabletop, knees over the hips, shins parallel to the floor. We're going to keep our knees at 90 degrees as we do our warm-up taps. So lowering the legs one at a time, tap the floor as if the floor is really hot. The moment you feel your foot in contact with the floor, you lift it right back up. Again, knees stay at 90 degrees. You should feel the challenge of the imprint. A little bit more work to engage the abs and keep that lower back flush against the mats when there is a leg lowering. Continue to breathe. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. As long as you're breathing, that's the most important thing. I do cue breath a lot, and that's more of a reminder to breathe. But don't ever feel like if I'm saying exhale and you're doing inhale that you're doing anything wrong. If you'd like to try lowering both legs, you can do the first one just halfway down. Make sure you maintain that imprint in that lower back. And if you do, then you can go ahead and take your toes all the way down to the floor. You should feel your abdominals. It's doing a lot of work to maintain that imprint while the legs are moving. Feel free to press your hands into the floor a little bit. So we're just kind of warming up our body, waking up our midsection here. You're also feeling your hip flexors and quads. These are two also very important muscles in your core musculature. Last one. Exhale, lower, inhale, lift. Go ahead and allow your heels to fall toward your butt And then place your feet hip distance on the ground. Our next movement is articulation of the spine as we roll up one vertebra at a time into our hip bridge. The important things to look at is the hip joint, the knee joint, and the shoulder joint. Try to have them all in one alignment. Inhale at the top, exhale, roll down. Starting from the shoulder blades, you roll down through your mid back, low back, and finally your tailbone hits the floor. Inhale, exhale, roll up. You keep your eye gaze on the ceiling. Keep the head and neck aligned with the spine. It's not for pushing your hips as high as you can. Squeeze the glutes. It's looking for this neutral alignment here. Inhale. Exhale, roll down. You can try to articulate the spine, moving one vertebra at a time. Inhale at the bottom. Prepare, exhale. Squeeze the butt, press through the feet. Reach those knees away from the shoulders. Inhale and exhale. Sometimes if you have like a stiff spine, you might feel that your spine is not articulating. But you can work on the mobility by doing this exercise. Start by getting your tailbone off the floor first, and then feel just your lower back off the floor, then your mid back, sort of your upper back, but the tops of the shoulder blades will stay on the floor. And the same thing. Try to find that mobility in your spine as you lower back down, inch by inch. Now we're going to nod the chin, look for the kneecaps, and lift the head, neck, and shoulder blades. Here is our rectus abdominis doing the work to lift the shoulder blade off the ground. Inhale to return. Exhale, look at your knees. Neck muscles can get fatigued doing Pilates. So one way of preventing that fatigue is to tuck that chin and keep those eye gazes on the knees. We definitely don't want to be looking at the ceiling here when our shoulder blades are lifted. We're going to go into our hundreds, which is taking the entire arm and pumping it. So we're pumping from the shoulder joints. You can have your feet on the floor, legs together in tabletop, legs together vertical, or legs together on diagonal. I'm going to start with my leg in the tabletop and then go through a few other positions. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 10. Inhale. Exhale. 20. Inhale. Exhale. 30. Inhale. Now stretch those hamstrings. Exhale. 40. Inhale. Exhale. 50. Keep those eye gaze on those knees. Exhale. 60. Inhale. A little more challenge to the imprint. 70. Inhale. Exhale. 80. Inhale. Exhale. Almost there. Last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. That was kind of our abdominal warm-up, and we're going to get into our spine muscle warm-up. When we work on our spine, you want to make sure your legs are active. So right now I'd say they're relaxed, separated. I'm going to squeeze my leg muscles, and then when I use the muscles around my spine to lift my chest, I'm going to really feel a lot of engagement through the entire length of my body. Good. In order to keep my head and neck aligned with my spine, I'm going to keep my eye gaze on the floor. Notice I'm not hyperextending my neck and looking up at the wall in front of me. Even though the tops of the legs are staying on the mats, the legs, the quadriceps, the muscle right above the kneecaps are engaged. Try one more. Inhale to lift with those forearms on the ground. And then, if you like, try a few with the arms reaching toward the toes. Don't feel the obligation to lift your chest really high. The important thing is that we're trying to get some movement in the opposite direction of slouching. So if you think of slouching as your spine rounding forward and your shoulder blades separating from each other, this is the opposite. So we're working on those postural muscles. Good. As you lift the chest, think about lifting the top of the head forward, away from those toes, active legs. Good. Last one. Go ahead and sit back and stretch. And anytime you need to relax, stretch, reset. This is a great position to do it in. Sitting on your heels, rounding the spine. We're going to go into our plank, and that targets the transverse abdominis. I've seen this in all sorts of fitness classes. You want the elbows underneath the shoulders. Reach one heel to the back of the room, so my leg is very active, right? And then the other. And then lower your butts until you feel that challenge in your abdominals. Ideally, the butt or your hips should be about shoulder height. All right, so we have that straight line that is drawn from our ears to the shoulders to the hips, knees, and ankle. As you breathe in and out, look at your thumbs, squeeze your abdominals, draw your belly button up and in toward the spine. Squeeze your glutes and your quadriceps. So all the muscles around your pelvis are very, very much engaged. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Gently press into those forearms. Exhale. You're also going to feel your shoulder muscles. Inhale. And exhale. Good. So thinking of this good posture, aligned position, line drawn from ears, shoulders, hips, through knees, let's try a plank that's a little more vertical. So if you want a little extra padding under your knees, you can go over your mat like so. To help counterbalance the movement, having those arms forward will help. So squeeze abs, glutes, quads. Do a slight hinge at the knee. And you'll immediately probably feel your quads. And when you go back even further, you'll start to feel your abs and your glutes. Now, if you arch your back, you're going to feel a nice stretch. And if you drop your butt back, you're probably not going to feel much. It's going to feel like, oh, that felt great. So we're going to try to keep that straight line. I'm just going to look over my fingertips. So like I'm looking at my fingernails the whole time. Again, this is just to help counterbalance the movement. You decide how far you want to go back. Again, the work is in the abdominals, glutes, and quadriceps. All 3 of those muscles right around this lumbopelvic hip area. LPH complex, as they call it in the textbooks. Quality over quantity. You don't have to do too many. If you want a little more challenge, one way of doing it is with the arms. So you can say like, oh, where are my toes? Do you want to touch your toes? I don't know. Do I? So just by changing an arm position can affect how much work you feel. I'm probably leaning back the same distance, the same angle, but because I now move my arm back, this feels like so much more work than if I kept my arm here. All right, so you can always have a little fun with arms. And I'll demonstrate this concept again in the very next movement, which is our half rollback. Okay, so we're back to sitting and the front half of our mats. And this is called the half rollback. With the arms forward, you feel a certain amount of work in the abdominals. This is spine flexion again. So when we kind of go into our crunch, it's okay to have a rounded spine. It's just not a great thing if we're sitting at our desk with a rounded spine typing for hours and hours. Our spine is meant to do this kind of movement, the C curve. That's how we work our abs. So here's neutral and C curve. So let's change up our arms for fun. I'm just going to angle my body a little bit like this so you can sort of see what's happening. Sometimes it's hard to see what's going on when you see my profile. I'm just taking one arm across the chest and then the other. Inhale here, exhale. And then there's options. Keep your arm right in front and don't bend the elbow at all. The whole time, that's fine. Let me show you. Oh, sorry. I forgot to do anything there. What I meant to show you was that you can hug yourself. And that's probably the most amount of work for the current variation that we're doing. Let me try that again. If you want to continue with the single arm, maybe one and then one again. So one last thing I want to show you. Let's do one more together. So if you did one arm, you'll finish with the other arm. If you're doing two, you're doing two. So one thing I want you to just sort of experience is keeping the arms forward. Exhale into your half roll back. Decide where you're going to stop. Decide where it's challenging for you. And then from here, bring your arms back without moving, without changing anything. And just feel how much more work your abs do simply because you change the position of your arms. Not because you move back anymore or you curve your spine more, or you change anything with your spine. Let's just try one more time. So we're going back, holding, and then the only thing we're doing is changing the position of our arms. Hopefully you're still breathing. Exhale. Inhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay. Now we're going to go all the way down. And we're doing the full roll up. And this is again about articulation. So making sure we have a very mobile spine. Even though our legs are staying on the mat, we're going to activate our legs. I like to have my foot flexed. I'm going to show you a variation if you do get stuck though. So for the first one, let me just show you the roll up. Starting with your arms by the ears. You reach your arms up. Inhale. Exhale. Again, you want active legs, which helps to anchor your heels down so you can roll up and stretch here and then return. Now it is possible that you get stuck here. Okay, and if that's the case, not a problem. You're gonna have your legs up. And at the moment that you feel you're getting stuck, kick your leg out. Just give yourself a little bit of a little pump there to get over the hump. And then you're in action. And the more you practice of this, the more you'll be able to get that mobility and roll up. Let's try with the other leg. Inhale. Exhale. We're aiming for that sort of smoothness in the roll up and in the roll down. Let's do 3 more. You're just seamlessly transitioning between breaths from inhale to exhale. Inhale back. Inhale. And exhale. So it's always about quality over quantity of movements. So don't ever worry about, how many you're doing and like, did I do enough? I want you to focus always on like, do you feel in the right muscle groups? And hopefully you don't feel in the neck because that's pretty much never one of our targeted muscle groups. We don't ever do an exercise to target the neck. All right, so let's come back down. All right, I'll hug the knees into the chest for single leg stretch. Stretch it on the diagonal. The higher the diagonal, I'm getting almost vertical here. The more hamstring stretch. The lower, a little more work in the abs. Again, this is the great thing about Pilates is you can find the challenge that works for you. What is challenging but doable? Head and shoulder blades up. Head and shoulder blades down. Either options challenge the abdominals. For the obliques, the hands will be behind the head, and we're going to rotate. So everyone's head's off the ground for this one, but your neck is supported. Exhale to rotate, inhale to transition to the other side. Try to keep your breath slow, and then from there, move with your breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, Exhale. All right. Double leg stretch. Head down version. Reach. Extending both legs to the diagonal of your choosing. Head, neck, and shoulders up version. And this, you reach to your knees and then you reach by your ears, right? Or towards your ears. You might not get to your ears. But another option is to circle those arms. Reach. So the sweep. You can sweep to higher too. Get a little range of motion in your arms. I mean your shoulders. You can reach straight, circle down to the side. This doesn't work. I used to teach in a Pilates gym that had no max capacity. They try to cram in as many people in as possible, which I always felt like we should, cap it at like 15 people or something. But what would happen is everyone would hit each other doing this. So I started teaching it this way. So no one would whack each other. All right, so we're gonna do our scissors, otherwise known as a really nice hamstring stretch. So the head down version, and then the head and shoulders up version. So if your shoulder blades are up, your head is up. And if your shoulder blades are down, your head is down. So basically they go as partners. Exhale, inhale to switch, exhale. So this involves not just our abs, but also our hip flexors and quads. And often this whole, like I said, lumbopelvic hip complex area is really sort of the main section of our core muscles. Last two switches. All right. Oh, hopefully you feel a little bit of abdominal work there. A great break from that is your shoulder bridge. Why is that a great break? Well, one, it works your glutes, which is a little different from your abs. And two, when you push your hips up, it stretches your hip flexors. So right now with the shoulder bridge, I would like you to try it without articulation. So instead of rolling up one vertebra at a time, I want you to lift the entire spine up all as one piece and then place the whole thing down as one flat piece. Good. And then we're going to do some marching. So when we have both feet down on the ground, hip distance apart, it's easy to lift both the right and left hip to the same height. But what happens when you take a leg away? Hopefully, this side doesn't dip down, right? You want to aim to keep both right and left hips at the same height the whole time. So go at any pace you'd like here, but you don't want to center your feet together. You want to keep them hip distance apart. That's part of the challenge, is that there's a little distance between your feet. And so you have to recruit your abdominals and definitely your glutes when you lift one leg off the ground. Yes, there might be a little shifting. And let's use our hands too. You can put those hands on the ground. But the best way to be really stable about this is that as you start to prepare to lift the leg, the one glute that's on the ground is already active. It's already preparing, right? You can't wait until the leg's lifted and then have that remaining butt cheek like, oh yeah, I gotta work. I better engage. No, you gotta prepare. You gotta prepare in advance. So my front glute is already prepared, and then my left leg can float off the ground smoothly without a lot of dropping and shifting and all that stuff, right? All right, so let's take a quick break. And let me just kind of show you the next exercise, and it's just a variation. You can keep your hands on the ground if you like, but basically we're going to move one arm with the leg. So if you want to, I said it's just one arm, so the other one would be down, right? So you go like this. So we're going to do one-sided. So let's just come up. So my hand's on the ground. This is my back leg, and this is my front arm. And the reason why you want the back arm down is because it's kind of like filling in the gap of the leg that's gone. So if my back leg is lifted, I'm going to keep my back arm down, and it kind of helps me, you know, with the balance it. So opposite limbs. Let's do 2 more. It looked really hard, but it's not as hard as it's all right. Okay, let's try the other side. What might be hard is this. Same side, same leg. Maybe we'll try that another day. What's one? All right, good. Let's look over and give our hips a little stretch and our abs a little stretch, which means we are working on the muscles of our spine. All right, so just like before, you want your legs active on the ground before you lift it. Because if it's not active and you lift it, sometimes we'll bend our knees, in which case it's no longer a hip, a glute extension, it is a hamstring curl. All right, I'm going to do opposites, single arm, opposite leg lift. So I'm reaching my front arm and I'm lifting my back leg nice and straight. Both limbs are straight. Come down and lift the other two. Now I have my forearm here, just giving a little pressure. My chest is lifted. My eye gaze is still on the floor, keeping my head and neck aligned with spine. And down. Alternate front arm, back leg. And then switch back arm, front leg. And by front leg, I mean the leg closer to you on the screen. Inhale, reach. Lengthen. Exhale, return. Inhale. Reach and lengthen. Now, if you'd like to try lifting all 4 limbs, go for it. Or continue lifting the opposite limbs. Now listen to your spine. Listen to your body. Prepare. Inhale. A narrow X here, not too wide. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Keep alternating if you're doing single limbs. Last 2. And last one. Good. So what that does is it does the opposite of this spine rounding motion that we are very, very accustomed to. Right? It's about just getting our spine moving. We have our spine can arch, it can round, it can rotate, it can side bend. Speaking of side bends. So I've done sideline leg lifts where we're completely lying down like this. And if that feels the most comfortable for your shoulders, you can absolutely do what we're about to do like this. So I'm just going to quickly demonstrate this here. This is the movement. But our variation here is to be propped up on the shoulder. On the elbow, so that we engage the shoulders and obliques more. When we lie down, it's not that we don't engage our abs. We do try to engage our abs, but there is, of course, less engagement when we are lying down completely. And then make sure, that you don't just sink into your shoulder here. We got to be very active in the shoulder. So here is our position. My butt, I know you can't really see it, but it's right along the edge of my mat back here. And so is my feet. And my knees are roughly bent about 90 degrees. This is called a clamshell. As we start thinking about this movement, we might forget about what's happening up here. So we might just kind of relax like this. So there's a lot to think about, and I will just kind of remind you throughout this exercise here as you exhale and inhale. Either works. You can inhale to open, exhale to open. Try to stay strong here. And if you're laying on your arm, then you're just going to lie on your biceps and try to draw the abdominals in, keeping stable. You'll have your kickstand hand always there for you. Okay. So from here, I want you to open up and stay open and lift. It's just a little lift right here on the hip flexor. You'll feel a little bit more in your abs. Feel the feet separate. Stay strong. Whether or not you need the sand, it's up to you. What else are we gonna do with it? I don't know. Again, staying strong all through this midsection here. We aren't actively crunching with our abs right now. They are stabilized. All right, a leg extension. So extend. So my feet are connected, right? And from here, I'm gonna fire my quadriceps, straighten the leg. Oh, I almost sunk down. I almost forgot about my shoulders. Yeah, each straightening is a very, very specific, intentional quadricep engagement. Because we can just kick our legs like this really sort of absent-mindedly, but what we're doing is a very specific, like, controlled extension. And then one more variation, and hopefully your elbows are okay, but you're gonna basically lift and then extend. So this lift and then extend. So you'll notice that it's kind of like a higher kick. So hip movement, knee movement. Hip, then knee. So two joints here. Counting, aiming for about 6 to 8, but my emphasis is never about rushing you for you to stay at the same pace that I'm going. I want you to go at your own pace and feel the right muscles. So 6 to 8 is good. Let's try the other side. Whatever you do on the first side, you'll do on the second side. So if you're down on your bicep, you're going to do that again. And here is our propped up elbow position. And we start with the clamshell. So if you think of clams, they open and close. You all know if you cook clams, to not eat ones that don't open, right? Hopefully everyone knows that and doesn't try to pry them open and eat it. I get food poisoning more often than anyone I know, so I read about food safety, so it's fine. Okay, so enough about that conversation. We're going to keep the leg open and then lift. As we start to do this, again, we might find, oh, we're shifting here. So you gotta really stay propped up in the obliques and the shoulder. Not the shoulder girdle area is considered part of the core musculature because there is an attachment close to the spine. But, like your forearms is really considered a core muscle. So yeah, there's a lot involved with your shoulders. Think about the plank. It involved your shoulders. Okay, so we're going to keep the feet connected and then just straighten the leg. So this is a one joint motion. So the hip joint is not moving right now, which is different from the exercise we'll do right after this. This is just a knee extension. So fire up those quads. You can put your hand on the quadricep if you want and feel the muscles engaged. And if you've never really felt your quads or hip flexors in action, it was a good time to do it. So for the next exercise, if you want to put your hands right on your hip flexors, here's your hip bone and it's right underneath it. If you don't think you found it, the moment you lift your leg, you'll feel that hip flexor, that band of muscle just pop out right into your hands. And then from there, extend. You can't help but feel your hip flexor. It is a very powerful muscle. And if you think about what it does, it's lifting your legs up every time you walk or do a knee lift. When you do Pilates dancing, you lift your knees or kick. Yeah, your hip flexors are totally engaged. Every single person in here does Pilates with me. I think Pilates is such a great supplement to Pilates. It's a great supplement to everything, actually. Okay, so last one. Oh, all right. So that's our variation for our side lying leg lifts. Again, there's a ton of variations. I'm just I just do a few different ones every time. So if you come back to class next week, you'll see variations. But it's just to work on those inner and outer thigh muscles. That today was not inner thigh, it was just all outer thigh. I'm going to do a few more abdominal exercises. So if you come back to the floor, here is our tabletop leg. So from a feet hip distance apart position to one tabletop leg, hands down on the ground. Gonna have you do a crunch. So we've already done crunches. We did it in the beginning for our prep or our warm up. In fact, it looked like this. So the only difference is that one leg is up. The next variation, and I'm going to build this up in stages so you can decide what variations you want to do, what's your favorite, what's most challenging. From here, I'm going to extend the leg to the ceiling. Bend and lower, crunch and straighten. Bend and lower, exhale here. Actively reaching with the fingers, looking toward the knees. You can look at this knee or this knee, doesn't matter. You just want to keep the chin tucked. I know we're still working quad. The final variation is I'm going to extend the bottom leg too, but not up, forward. So it's going to look like your scissors. This, return. Now, if this bottom leg is really low to the ground, it's definitely going to challenge your abs more. So if you want to extend it more vertical, more on the high diagonal, you can. And if you do a full split like this, this is a little more challenging. So I'd like you to find what challenges you, but is doable, okay? The goal here is not to give you something that you look at and you're like, oh my God, I can't do it. What's the point? You can't do it, and you just lie down on the mat. No. There's a variation, everyone. Let's try one more. On this side, we have to do the other side. Okay, switch it up. Now, what's going to get tight are your abs. So if you need a little break, take a little break. And we'll go right into the other side here. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. If the exercise ever gets really, really hard, first ask yourself, am I still breathing or am I holding my breath? Because sometimes we forget and we just start to hold our breath, and then that makes the exercise a lot more challenging. Add the top leg extension. So even if your leg doesn't straighten all the way, if you have tight hamstrings, that's not the point. The point is that you are engaging and firing up those quadriceps to try to straighten your leg all the way. And that in itself creates the work, the strengthening of the muscles surrounding your kneecaps, right? It's a great way for leg strengthening, and also gets your hamstrings stretched. Okay, the final version. So the bottom leg here is going to extend straight out away from the head, but can go on the diagonal. Inhale, prepare, exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Here's the different flexibility on each side. Like my right hamstring is more flexible than my left, so try to get my right leg straighter. Two more here. Last one. All right, great. Hug your knees in. We're gonna roll our way into a teaser. Well, it's not really rolling. It does seem like rolling, but we're gonna extend the leg out to assist us. So similar to the roll up, the biceps start by the ears. As I bring my arms forward and I lift the shoulder blades, we all will get stuck unless we kick our legs out. And then we can transfer weight, and this is the teaser. where we balance on our tailbone. Okay? From here, we do the reverse. We straighten the legs, lean back, like we're doing a half roll back, control the lowering with our stomach, return to start. There's a lot of variation of teasers. This is one of the basic ones. Inhale, arms, head, shoulders. Exhale, legs, abs. Inhale, find your balance. Exhale, legs and abs. Control the lowering. And we return to start. So once you get the hang of it with your body, with how quickly you need to kick your legs out, how low, get the timing of it, and you can make it very smooth. Inhale, exhale. And you can feel when you need to extend those legs. And you can feel when the legs are ready to come back in. If your knees come in too soon, well, I'll show you. Well, if your legs go out too soon before your shoulder blades come up, you won't be able to make it up because of the timing of it. So there's a little bit of timing involved. And here, if I pull my knees in too soon, I'm just going to fall back. So there's a little bit of physics and counterbalance involved. And then a final variation is, just for today, is keeping the legs straight. If you keep the legs straight, you inhale here, roll down, and then return. Let's try 2 more. This is one of those exercises that sometimes feels easier to hold the breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. All right, good. Then I'm going to get on the hands and knees. Option to have your elbows down if needed. Just know that if your elbows are down and your spine is slanted, that you still want your legs in the same line as your spine. So if you're on your wrists, your arms are vertical, your wrists are underneath the shoulders, your knees are underneath the hips. My spine is more or less parallel to the floor, so when I extend my leg back, it is going to also be parallel. We're looking for that strong neutral. Good. From here, we're going to flex the foot and the knee. And then point. So think about reaching the toe as far back as you can, and then pulling your heel to your butt, like you're going to kick your own butt with your heel. Good. But notice I didn't drop my knee. I didn't lift my knee. My knee stayed at the same, well, that one I messed up, but hopefully my knee stays at the same position. Because the end goal is that we want this neutral spine alignment here. And the best way to keep that neutral spine is that our pelvis doesn't shift. Our pelvis shifts because our hips or our knees, our thigh bone causes the shift. So point, extend, flex, and bend. And if you look at the space on the floor between your thumb and you're not like actually looking at your foot, sometimes it's like kind of confusing to think about it. Like, did my foot actually flex? I'm not looking at it, you know? And part of this is learning about your body, this proprioception, this awareness of my knee is staying at the exact same height as my hip, my toes are pointed, and my leg is straight. I can feel it. And now I can feel that I flex my foot and my knee is bent. But I can also feel that my knee didn't drop or lift. All right, let's try the other side. All right. So ideally, I mean, if you have a mirror in front of you and you want to look at yourself and make sure you're doing the right technique, that's great. But I also realize that not everyone has a mirror, and you might have your Zoom screen that you can look at. But another great way of just really getting in touch with your body is to feel. So what you can do is point the leg, draw the abs in so you know your spine straight, right? Not arched, straight. And then you can flex your foot first and then bend. So it doesn't have to be a simultaneous thing. Then you can straighten your leg and then point the foot. So you can start with that, or you can do an immediate flex and bend. an immediate point and straight. Your ears are still nice and braced, and believe it or not, your spine is also stabilizing. So this is great for neutral spine stabilization. It's work to keep your spine straight, because if we didn't have our stabilizers, what would be happening? Our spine is doing all this kind of motion, right? So it is work when you are choosing to stabilize and hold things versus allowing it to move. All right, this exercise not only works on your hamstring, but it also, like I said, works on the muscles in your spine. Okay. And you probably feel it in your arms and shoulders because all that is stabilizing as well. All right, we're going to finish with some hip circles. It's kind of a stretch, kind of a strengthened one. So basically, we do want range of motion in our hips, right? Because a healthy hip is a mobile hip. So I'm just kind of turning a little bit sideways. You can either straighten both legs, or I like to keep one a little bit bent. You're going to circle, the biggest circle you can make with that one leg straight. Now don't circle so big that your whole body tilts over, or tilts or falls over. You still want to be really stable in the body as you circle the leg. Inhale at the top, exhale at the bottom. I'm kind of pointing to my hips because they're not supposed to be moving, but the best way to actually keep your hips from moving is to put your hand on the floor. Good, reverse direction. Don't worry about it being a perfect circle. That's not the point. The point is that you make the sort of the most exaggerated side to side, up and down shape. And again, it's not really range of motion if you go so far to the side that you pull your whole body with it, right? That's not range. That's me having this much range and then my body like dipping over. So you want to make sure that it's actually your hips really opening up. So try the other side, knowing that there are differences between your left and right side. I definitely don't have as much range in my left hip socket as I do in my right. So if you have like a webinar or a meeting where you don't have to be necessarily sitting at your desk, you just have to listen. Just reverse direction. Make sure you're still breathing. Sometimes it's helpful to just lie on your mats and do some stretching or some abs, a little bit of Pilates. You don't need to do Pilates for 45 minutes for it to count. 3 exercises daily is great. All right, a final stretch here, and if you want to keep your knees bent, you can. But we're going to open it up like this and support your legs. Gravity's kind of just pulling it down. I really like this stretch because I can't really do the straddle splits. I mean, it's just so much work for me to pull my legs apart. But I can almost just relax here and let gravity just do that pulling for me. But a variation of this is this one, is the stretch. And the other reason I like doing it on my back is because I guarantee my head, neck, and spine are aligned to the floor because the floor is flat. Here, I am stretching, but my spine is definitely round. So again, it's like variations. Again, like I said here, spine flat and straight. Yeah. So that concludes our Pilates class today. A little bit of stretch, strength, breathing, things that are great for your mind and body.
Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for joining Pilates. I put this on YouTube if you want to, do it again or pick a segment to do again. I don't put up anything else because, copyright music. This has no music. It's just my voice. I didn't copyright my voice, so asking Julie, the lawyer.